Hey guys, welcome to this live session by Intellipaat. So guys, in this live session, we'll be learning Splunk. We'll be learning the basics of it. We'll understand what it is, why do we need it, what are some of the companies that will be using it, and etc. etc. So guys, that is what we'll be covering during this session. So all of you guys watching this session, let me tell you that today we'll have three sessions similar to this on the topic of Splunk. The first topic is basic introduction to Splunk, that is learn Splunk. In the second lecture, I'll be talking in more detail about the Splunk architecture, the various advanced architectures there are. I'll be talking about that in the second lecture, which will be at 6 o'clock. I'll give you guys the timings in the chat, so don't worry about that. And finally, we'll have the third lecture, which will be about a real-time practical application of Splunk. We'll basically be monitoring web applications logs using Splunk. So guys, let's get started with this session. In this session, we'll be learning about Splunk. So let's look at the agenda for this. So agenda for today's session, this session will be why Splunk. So basically discussing why people need to learn Splunk. Then we'll go to what is Splunk. Then check out the uses of Splunk. Then a case study. We'll see two case studies. We'll see how two companies, started using Splunk and improved their whole environment, the IT environment they're working with. And then we'll move on to Splunk salary and job trends. And finally, we'll discuss the further learning paths that you guys can choose if you think that Splunk is something that you guys want to, pursue. Now, I know a lot of you are right now here, waiting to ask questions. If you feel like you didn't understand anything, or if you have an extra doubt, please go ahead and ask me a question. I really don't mind answering that. And this is what that session is basically for, helping you guys figure out how, any doubts you may have. So let's get started. Why Splunk? So why do we need Splunk? So this question, to answer this question, we'll have to ask ourselves, why do we need data analysis? Now, data is very important in today's world. It's there everywhere. You use it with everything. Like almost everything produces data. Your PC produces data. Your transaction, when you buy something from Amazon, that produces data. When you are doing anything, any sort of action that you're doing, you're producing data. Now, the question will be whether it's recorded or not. If it's recorded, then will that data help a particular company, get better insights? And once you get those better insights, they can make better business decisions. Like if they can do targeted ads on you, or if they can make you better recommendations, those kind of things, right? Even Netflix collects data, like what you're watching, when you're watching, those kind of things. So all of this data analysis is important in the end for us to gather insights and meaning from the data that we collect. And once you've collected that data, we find value in it. We find business profits, etc., etc. So that's why Splunk. We have a lot of enterprises like Amazon, Spotify, Google, Instagram, Netflix, Microsoft, Alibaba, so many different organizations and enterprises that collect data. When they collect data from different sources of it, it gets stored. And we get very large amounts of data on different kinds of things. We get, different sources. Like it's a transaction source, that means the human is transacting. So that is the data. But if you want to just measure the performance metrics of a particular database or server, then that is also data. Or if you want to see how an API is doing, how many requests are being hit to your, website, then you can also classify that as data that you can use to basically analyze. So that's what, basically your data comes in and is. So with this copious amounts of data, you process it, you analyze it. Once you've done all of that, you will be getting a lot of insights into this data. You'll understand a lot of different patterns. You'll apply, algorithms and, visualizations. And once you do that, you will finally get an idea of what this data is about, or you will get some patterns that you previously couldn't see by looking at it. And once you do that, you can increase your profits and your efficiency because you now understand the data. So you understand where the problem lies in or where the opportunity for you lies in. That's where it lies in, right? So this is why you need data analysis. And that's where Splunk comes in. That is what Splunk is. It's basically a tool that will help you to analyze your data, store your data, and visualize that data, right? So it's a proprietary software used by companies to collect and analyze data that they produce. You have different sources, like you have Linux, you have Windows, you have databases, you have applications, you have volumes, you have servers, and you have network. All of these are data sources. Now, all of these things will produce some logs, right? Because they're working, they're applications. They produce some kind of metric or some kind of logs because they're performing some task. When you perform some task, you're producing some kind of log. So you can, refer to it later. And you can, basically take all of those log files and you can use Splunk to visualize and analyze it. Now, this is basically for checking your efficiency of your particular systems. If it's a Windows server or a Linux server, then you can see what is going on with it. You can diagnose it. You can see which particular application is using what particular resource. So you guys know in Windows we have Control Alt Delete, where we get the task manager, which shows us all the processes and how much that process is consuming in CPU usage, in memory usage, right? So in similar manner, you can use Splunk also, but in a way more advanced terms, right? So Splunk's overall goal is to basically analyze data and then visualize it. And it does so on a very large scale. Now, when I talk about task manager, it's just for your system. But when we talk about Splunk, right, it's about thousands of servers that a company may have. So a company like Microsoft, they have like thousands of servers. And to monitor all of those thousands of servers at the same time, they need to use a very sophisticated tool. So they'll have their own tool maybe, but a lot of companies that don't produce their own tool usually resort to using Splunk. So that's what Splunk is. It's a visualization and an analysis tool, right? So let's move on. So let's see what are the uses of Splunk. I talked about a few of them. Let's go in a little bit detail. So we have the first use, that is basically monitoring system performance. Now, monitoring system performance is a very important thing to do because you need to make sure that your system is as efficient as possible when it's working, because you need to use a least amount of resources but get the most amount of result. To make sure that that happens, you need to make sure that all the things, all the processes that are happening on that particular server, on that system, are efficient. There are no, like, it's very optimized. And if you see if there are any errors, if you see that something goes wrong, then you'll be alerted about it. That's also very important. See, in monitoring system performance, if something goes, like, if something starts using a lot of resources, then you will get an alert about it. Then another uses data informed decisions. So basically, you have a lot of data, you analyze all that data, and based on that data, you can make powerful decisions. So this is kind of like data analysis part of Splunk, where you analyze that data to perform, important decisions, to make important decisions. Then security cognizance. So security cognizance basically talks about how secure data is and how you can basically evaluate the security features of your particular instance. So if you have a network, right? If you have a network breach in your whole IT environment, if you're working for a company that has like hundreds of servers interconnected to each other, a lot of networks here and there, and you see that there is a breach. So when there is a breach, Splunk will identify it and will inform you that there is a breach. Obviously, when you have to set a criteria that helps you to do so, right? Okay, so our next is monitoring system health. Now, it is similar to monitoring system performance, but monitoring system health is to make sure that the system is healthy, it's working, properly. Instead of system monitoring system performance, where you check the efficiency. And finally, we have improving the quality. When you do all of these uses together, put them together, you produce a software product or a normal product that is of very high quality. When you're monitoring everything, when you're troubleshooting things, you realize what the problem is and you resolve those problems. And once you resolve those problems, you give the customers what they need. They get the best possible quality for that product that they paid for. And that's what Splunk helps us to do. It basically helps us to improve the overall quality of Splunk, right? So guys, that was Splunk, and those were the uses of it. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask. I don't mind answering. Okay, so next thing we'll be going through is a case study. So let's see how two companies looked at a few problems and how they resolved them. So let's first talk about PEXA. You guys probably haven't heard of PEXA. it's a local company. It's a Australian company. So PEXA is Australia's first online property exchange network. So basically, you exchange information about property on that platform. It was formed in 2010 to fulfill government initiative to deliver a single national e-conveyance solution to the industry. PEXA assists members of its network, such as lawyers, conveyancers, financial institutions, property developers, to launch documents with land registries and complete financial settlements electronically. So basically, what PEXA was trying to do, it was basically taking, handwritten documents and trying to digitalize it, or pushing the market into the digital age. You don't have to write your documents anymore and you keep it in some old warehouse. You use PEXA. You use as an online warehouse where you could store it. Now, PEXA had so many different computers connected to each other over vast distances in Australia. So the problem they were having was in monitoring that particular whole system that they had created, the whole environment of different interconnected servers that they had created. So that's where they started using Splunk and they resolved their issues. So when they started using Splunk, the whole system was very centralized. It became a very centralized system because there was one person or one system that was, monitoring all of it. And it basically unified the whole operation and increased the visibility of the whole operation. So once you increase the visibility, you basically mean that you see what is happening between different servers, what is being lodged in the different servers. If you have any documents coming in one server, where are they being stored, and what is happening to that document, etc., etc. Not just document, that is again transaction data. You have performance metrics also, metric data also, and you have log data also. Then it basically improved their automation and efficiency. So basically, when they found out that there are any problems with the whole system that Splunk helped them identify, they were able to resolve it. Once they understood it. And finally, in the end, it basically helped improve the overall user experience of PEXA's system. All right. So guys, that was PEXA. It was a case study in which Splunk actually helped PEXA out with their problems. Now let's look at a little bit more familiar company. Now, a lot of you guys would identify Vodafone. Vodafone is a ISP, or it's a telecommunications company that provides communication to people. Basically, it gives you a SIM card and you can talk to people, etc., etc. So Vodafone is one of the largest telecommunication companies and provides a range of services, including voice, messaging, and data and fixed communications. And Vodafone's IT operations team, that was the problem, that they lacked visibility into the health and performance of the services that were getting rolled out constantly. Now, it's such a big company where they have to provide so many different services that are being conjured up by the business managers onto the clients and the customers. So when they have to perform, manage so many different projects, it becomes very hard to track all these different projects to see how well they're doing. What are the performance of these projects? How do we get a feedback out of these projects? So that's the problem that Vodafone was facing, because Vodafone has such large infrastructure. It has to supply to so many different customers, right? So that's where Splunk came in. So Splunk basically helped them address all of these issues. It improved again the operational visibility. So they were able to see how integrated were the different servers to each other, and they were able to see how the data was flowing from one place to another. So that really helped them a lot to understand what was going wrong, if there was something going wrong, and help improve the overall quality of those systems that they were working with, or those projects that we were working with. And if suppose there was any issue, since Vodafone has to make sure that there is no downtime, because people have to call other people and make sure that some calls can be very important. So there should be no downtime ideally. But if there is in future, if there is an issue, then Splunk basically help them resolve it, because with Splunk you can trigger alerts based on criteria that you have set. So if you have set a criteria that the clock call is not being made, then there is a alert being registered with the developers or whoever is responsible. So it basically helped them with rapid issue resolution. So it helped, Splunk basically helped Vodafone also. So as you can see, it helped two major companies resolve a lot of its issues. And that's why Splunk is very useful. Now, you would use Splunk on a very small scale. You would rather use it on a very large scale. So that's why a lot of companies have a high demand for this. because large companies like multinational corporations, right? They have a lot of systems, and to monitor a lot of those systems, they sometimes have their own proprietary software, or they use Splunk because Splunk is already there. They don't have to create it by themselves, so they just resort to using Splunk, as it helps them out monitor all of the different projects and servers across their whole network, which is very useful. And that's why the Splunk developers and Splunk administrators, they're in very high demand because a lot of companies use it, and a lot of companies basically need someone to help them out with this, right? So now let's discuss about the Splunk salary and job trend. So I'll basically talk about the roles also there are. So let's see them. So we have different roles like Splunk power user. So power user in a Splunk is one of the basic roles that you can get. It's one of the basic certifications you can get in Splunk. Once you get certified as a power user, you basically know how to use Splunk. You know all the basic fundamentals of it. You know what the dashboard is. You know how to do searches. You know how to work with it, etc., etc. But nothing more than that. That's where the admin comes in. So admin is the one that is responsible for deploying an architecture. Now I will talk more about this deploying the architecture in the next video, since it's a little bit more complicated. If I go into it right now, it will take a lot of time. So let me just give you a small idea. So Splunk admin does basically what any admin would do. He manages the whole system. He gives the authority. He decides the users, what roles do they get, what authentication have they performed or not. They basically make sure that everyone is doing the role properly. And they also have a role of deploying a few components here and there, right? So Splunk admin is a little bit more advanced version of the Splunk power user, and Splunk admins are basically more in demand than anyone else. So if you guys want to get into Splunk, right, and if you're a system administrator and you have heard of Splunk, then don't worry at all, because it will be very easy for you to get into Splunk, because you can just apply for a Splunk administrator certification. You can just become a Splunk admin. And if you're a person who's looking to get into this whole Splunk, area, then you can also do that. You can become a power user, then you can go ahead for admin. But if you don't want to be an admin, you can always be a developer. So in Splunk, there is something called knowledge objects. So these knowledge objects can be your alerts. These can be reports that you create, or these can be the dashboards. These can be so these are all these different knowledge objects. So in Splunk, you have apps also, different apps that you can use. So to create all of those things, you have Splunk developers. That's what Splunk developers do. They help you develop all the different knowledge objects and all the different apps or add-ons there may be, right? So that's the job of Splunk developers. So you have different varied roles in Splunk that you can choose from. Now let's see the salary and job trends for all of these. So we have the salary for Splunk power user. As you can see, it's pretty high even in America. So even if you have the lowest certification, and the company needs someone to use the Splunk that they have, then you can easily get a job that is paying you $80,000 per year. And that's a pretty huge amount for a starting salary. Even in India, if you have an Indian company that needs someone to help them with Splunk and you have a power user certification, then you can definitely get into it. You can get a very good salary of 9 lakhs per annum. That is a very good salary in India for a starter at least. Then as you can see with admin and developer, you have very high salaries. With admin, you have $132,000. That's an average figure. And in India, you have 13 lakhs per annum. And for Splunk developer, again, you have similar amounts, like $127,000 in America and 14 lakhs per annum in India. So you have such huge amounts. But again, these will be varied from company to company and with how much experience you have with you. If you have way more experience, you have like 10 years of experience already, then you would be definitely paid more than 14 lakhs per annum or $127,000. You might even be paid $300,000, or you might be paid 40 lakhs per annum. So it depends on all of that. So this is what the guys is. These are the roles: Splunk power users, Splunk admins, Splunk developer, and these are the salaries for them. So guys, that was all for this session. I hope you guys understood what Splunk is basically, how it helps people, and why is it so important in our world. Now, I've divided this session into 3 parts so that you guys get an idea of what Splunk is in the first lecture. In the second lecture, we'll go into a little bit more advanced, talk about the architecture and stuff. And finally, we'll go into the real-time application of it. We'll basically monitor an app and we'll see how we can create a dashboard out of it, right? So now let's see the learning part. So guys, if you are interested in learning Splunk at all, then I would recommend you guys to start with our YouTube channel and then check out our blogs and our community, right? But if you're a person who wants to get into certification, who wants to enroll in an online instructor-led class, I would definitely recommend you guys start up with our website. So you just have to go to intellipaat.com and type in Splunk, and you can see a very popular course over here that is a Splunk training and certification developer and admin. So this is a very important course. So you basically learn about the development admin in the same course, and it's an online class. So people will be there to teach you, and we have 40 hours of project also. Also, guys, there's something I didn't talk about, but that was SIEM, the Splunk. So it's basically relates to security. It's a security role. So if you're in cybersecurity, you can get into this also. And then we have the Architects Master Program, basically where we'll teach you everything, both the security and the developer and the admin, right? So we teach you everything. So you can become a solutions architect. Splunk, where you basically be, doing everything. So guys, definitely go ahead for a certification if you think you like Splunk, if you want to get into it. If you want to get a taste of Splunk, then you can go ahead and check out our videos. We have a lot of videos on Splunk already, and you can understand how a course is going to be from there, right? And if you're a person who's not into Splunk, who just wants to see something that's here, guys, I would recommend go ahead and check out intellipaat.com/academy. We have started this free academy where we'll be giving a part of our courses for free, entirely free, no payment at all. And you guys can check out our courses here, right? So we have different courses, right? All right, guys, that was it for this session. I will leave you with this coupon code that is YouTube 30. Use it with our courses to get flat 30% off. Thank you so much for watching. And here are our contact details. Also, guys, if you want to ask questions, I'm still available. Please go ahead and ask questions. I will definitely try to answer them. Let's spend some 5 minutes answering questions. So do you guys have any questions right now? All right, fine. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next session. Okay, sorry guys, I did not see. We have a few questions over here. Okay, so what is the exam cost? So guys, if you want to see what the certification costs, you can go ahead and contact us. Here are the details. You can call us, and you can write to our sales department. They will help you figure those things out. The cost of everything. Is Splunk a coding software? No, Splunk is not a coding software. Splunk is basically it's not a coding software. Basically, it's a suite of tools. So, like if you open it up, you have a web console, and you have a lot of things to manage. I mean, there are some aspects of you can code, but it's not a coding software. It's per se. I'll show you guys about it when we are doing working with it in the third session. All right. Finally, we have another question. We have compare Nagi OS, which is better. Okay, so Nagi OS is good, but Nagi OS is Splunk has a lot more options with it. Splunk is basically used for large scale areas. You can use Splunk in large scale environments. You can use Nagi OS for that too, but Splunk has much more supportability for that. It's very easy to set it up for a large scale environment. You have multiple servers, and if you want to install forwarders on all those servers, then it's very easy to do that compared to Nagi OS. It basically helps you manage all those forwarders also. When we study the architecture, right, you guys will understand why it's used for a different totally environment, like a distributed environment, right? So there we have a lot of different servers, and you need to manage all those different servers. And for that purpose, you need to use Splunk. So in what way is Splunk different from other log analysis? So you have tools like Grafana and Prometheus. So I just like talked about with Nagi OS, right? Grafana, Prometheus. Splunk is way more intuitive when you're using it. A person who does not have any tech savvy knowledge, right? If he's not very, he doesn't know about how to create queries in Grafana, or create dashboards by writing queries and all that, and he doesn't know how to connect things, he can use Splunk anyway. If you're a manager and you want to see what the results of your this thing are, your project, so you want to see the data that's coming out of the project, then you can easily monitor it if you just have access to that data in the database. So it makes it easy for that, right? So yeah, again, ELK stack is very similar to Splunk, even though Splunk is not free. Splunk is a paid enterprise software, but ELK is completely free on that department, and ELK is a bit cheaper also. But I will say that ELK still needs a little bit of technical knowledge to set it up. Whereas with Splunk, you just have to, give one command, or on Windows, you just have to click next, 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 and it will get installed. And it's relatively easier to use. And some of the features that Splunk has, like Splunk has a lot of apps. It's a very old software. It's been there since I think 2007, 8, something. Yeah, it's been there since then. It has a lot of, it has a lot of supportability for different apps if you want to use. If you work in Cisco systems, right, there's a specific app just for Cisco systems that you can use in Splunk. Whereas with ELK, you'll have to define everything by yourself. All right, so we have another question. If you want to prepare for CRT certification and need to have Splunk Lab, then registering with Splunk using 15 days is the only way. Again, a question about how the certifications will work. I would recommend you guys go ahead and ask the operations team. Just call the number and write a mail to our sales team. They will help you out this way more. Can we drop off now? Yeah, just 1 second, guys. I didn't see the comments. Sorry, this totally my bad. Can we practice Splunk on community edition version? Yes, you can definitely practice it. So when we're doing the architecture, right, we'll be talking about how there are two different kind of environments. You have a distributed environment and you have a single server environment. So people normally use a single server environment for their own practice. If you just want to go to open the web console and see what are the different options, or if you want to start to index small amounts of data, right? So it's very easy to do that with Splunk single server. It's just to study how it will happen. For someone who's a beginner, it's very good to use that, right? But definitely when you're going to a company environment, you'll have to use a distributed environment there. Distributed environments basically say that there are multiple indexes, multiple search heads. We'll talk about that in the next session, okay? So any more questions? Okay. Okay, thank you so much for watching, guys. Please stick around for the next session. Let me just tell you guys about the next session. The next session is going to be held. So guys, just don't worry. We'll send you a mail telling you about the next session. Okay, it's going to be around 6 or 7 o'clock. All right.